There's a slot machine on the casino floor right now that's about to pay out big. And if you know what to look for, you could be the one sitting at it when it happens. I spent over 10 years as a casino floor supervisor tracking machine performance and payout data across thousands of machines. Today I'm revealing the 5 signs that indicate when a machine is primed to pay. These aren't myths or superstitions. These are patterns I documented and witnessed repeatedly throughout my career. Before we dive in, I want you to drop a comment below telling me, have you ever noticed any patterns when playing slots? Do you have a strategy, or do you just sit down at whatever machine catches your eye? I'm genuinely curious about your experiences, because what I'm about to share might completely change how you approach the casino floor next time you visit. Sign number 1. High coin in with low payouts. Let me start by explaining some terminology that's critical to understanding this first sign. Coin in is the total amount of money wagered on a specific machine over a given period. Every bet, every spin, every dollar that goes into that machine adds to the coin in total. Coin out is the total amount of money that machine has paid out in wins during that same period. When coin in is significantly higher than coin out, that machine is accumulating money. It's taking in far more than it's paying out, and this creates a mathematical imbalance that must eventually correct itself. Machines are programmed to hit specific payback percentages. RTP percentages usually range anywhere from 90% to 98%, with the industry standard for any slot machine considered to be around 96%. This isn't just a suggestion or a target, it's how the machine is fundamentally programmed to operate over its lifetime. Here's what makes this critical. If a machine is set to 90% RTP, it must pay back 90% of all money wagered over its lifetime. This is a mathematical certainty built into the programming. Here's the key insight that most players don't understand. If a machine has taken in significantly more than it's paid out over a substantial number of spins, mathematics demands a correction. Not because the machine is due in some cosmic sense, not because of karma or luck, but purely because of programming and mathematical probability. Let me give you a real example from my time on the floor. Let's say a dollar machine has had $5,000 wagered on it today. That's the coin in. But it's only paid out $3,000 in wins. That's the coin out. That machine is currently holding 40% of everything that's been wagered. But if that machine is programmed for 90% RTP, it's running 25% tighter than its programming dictates over the long term. Here's where it gets interesting. Over time, over thousands more spins, that machine must pay out more to reach its programmed 90% average. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. As a supervisor, I would see daily performance reports showing each machine's hold percentage. These reports were generated automatically by the casino management system and gave us real-time data on every single machine on the floor. Machines that were consistently holding 15% to 20% above their programmed rate were flagged in our system with red indicators. We'd watch these machines carefully because we knew, based on years of data and mathematical certainty, that big payouts were coming. It wasn't guesswork. It was statistical inevitability. Now, here's what you can observe as a player without access to the casino's internal reports. Watch how long people have been sitting at a machine without winning anything significant. If you see someone who's been playing the same machine for 30 minutes or an hour and they haven't hit any bonus rounds, haven't triggered any features, and you haven't heard any celebration sounds coming from that machine, that's a data point. Notice if a machine has been busy for hours with a steady stream of players, but you haven't heard any bonus triggers or jackpot celebrations coming from that area. Check if the progressive meter has been climbing steadily without resetting, which indicates people have been playing, but nobody's won the progressive yet. If a popular machine has been cold all day with high traffic, probability says it's getting closer to a hot cycle because the math always catches up eventually. But here's the kicker. RTP is a theoretical statistical calculation calculated over millions of spins. It's not an instant measure that applies to the short term, but rather a reflection of expected performance over a vast number of spins. This is crucial to understand because it means you need volume and sustained play before the mathematical correction becomes probable. I watched this pattern play out dozens of times during my tenure as supervisor. One specific example stands out vividly in my memory. We had a Buffalo Gold machine in a prime center floor location, right in the middle of the main walkway where traffic was constant. Over 6 hours on a busy Saturday afternoon and evening, that machine held 18% of all money wagered. It was supposed to hold around 8% based on its programming and historical performance. I knew from experience that this kind of deviation doesn't last indefinitely. The programming won't allow it. And sure enough, that evening between 8 and 9 p.m., that same machine paid out three separate bonus rounds within 30 minutes to three different players. The math caught up exactly as expected. It always does, given enough time and enough spins. This matters because you need to understand the time frame involved. Here's the important caveat that I need to make crystal clear. This pattern works over hundreds or thousands of spins, not 20 or 30 spins. If someone just sat down at a machine 5 minutes ago and put in $20, that machine is not ready yet just because they haven't won. You need volume. You need sustained play with sustained losses before the mathematical correction becomes genuinely probable and worth pursuing. Think about it like this. If a machine needs to maintain 90% RTP over a million spins, but it's currently at 60% RTP over 5,000 spins, those next few thousand spins are going to be weighted heavily toward payouts to bring that average back up toward the programmed target. The more extreme the deviation from the programmed RTP, the more dramatic the correction will be when it inevitably occurs. Sign number 2. Near-miss frequency increases. Near misses are when jackpot symbols appear just above or below the pay line, or when bonus symbols land on 2 out of 3 reels but not all 3. These are almost wins that aren't wins at all. They create psychological tension and anticipation, making players think they were so close to hitting something big. Now, let me tell you something that most players don't understand about near misses. They're not accidents. They're not random occurrences that happen by chance. They're psychological tools that are programmed into the game by the manufacturers. Game manufacturers program reel mapping to create near misses at specific frequencies. This is legal. This is standard practice across the entire industry. This is how modern slot machines are designed to function. But here's where it gets interesting. The frequency of near misses can indicate where a machine is in its payout cycle. Before a machine triggers a bonus or big win, near misses often cluster together in a noticeable pattern. You'll see bonus symbols appearing 2 out of 3 reels repeatedly, sometimes on consecutive spins. You'll see scatter symbols landing just off the pay line multiple times in a row, sometimes by just one position. It's like the random number generator is circling around the winning combination, getting closer and closer with each spin. Manufacturers program this behavior intentionally. They build tension and anticipation before payouts as part of the game design psychology. And as a supervisor monitoring multiple machines on surveillance cameras, I noticed this pattern constantly. Machines showing excessive near misses on our surveillance monitors. We could see the screen displays from our supervisor station, often paid out within the next 100 to 200 spins. We'd actually joke about it in the supervisor's office when we were reviewing footage. We'd say a machine was warming up when we saw this pattern developing on the monitors. Here's how you can spot this pattern yourself. When you're playing or observing, if you're seeing bonus symbols appear 2 out of 3 reels repeatedly, let's say this happens 5 or 6 times within 50 spins, that's a sign the machine is approaching something. If scatter symbols keep landing just off screen or just missing the pay line by one position, that's a sign the RNG is cycling through number ranges adjacent to the trigger. If wild symbols are appearing in clusters but not quite completing winning lines, creating those frustrating almost wins, that's a sign the programming is building toward a payout event. Don't walk away when you see this pattern intensifying. Sit tight. Stay patient. The machine is mathematically approaching a payout event based on how the RNG is cycling through its programmed sequences. Let me break down the technical reason this happens, because understanding the mechanics makes this sign much more actionable. The random number generator cycles through billions of possible combinations every second, constantly generating new number sequences even when nobody's playing. When it's approaching the threshold to trigger a bonus feature based on its programming, near misses statistically increase as a side effect of the mathematics involved. The machine isn't teasing you intentionally. It's not trying to trick you or manipulate you emotionally. Well, it is, but that's a different discussion. It's mathematically approaching a programmed payout threshold. The RNG works on number sequences and ranges. Certain number ranges trigger bonuses. Certain ranges trigger near misses. And when the RNG is cycling through numbers that are adjacent to the bonus trigger ranges in the programmed sequence, you see those near misses pile up rapidly. It's a mathematical side effect of how the programming works, not a deliberate attempt to frustrate you, though frustration and anticipation are certainly byproducts that keep players engaged. But I need to give you an important caution here, and this is critical. This sign works best in combination with other signs. Don't chase near misses alone without any other indicators present. Set a firm limit for yourself before you start. If you see near misses for 50 spins and nothing hits, reassess your strategy. Don't pour unlimited money into a pattern that might take another 200 spins to complete, and might not complete during your session at all. Let me give you a real example I witnessed firsthand that illustrates this perfectly. A player was on a Buffalo Gold machine, the same game type I mentioned earlier, experiencing near miss after near miss. Bonus symbols appearing on reels 1 and 2, but not 3, over and over. Gold buffalo head symbols showing up 2 at a time, but not triggering the feature. I was watching on surveillance because I recognized the pattern developing and wanted to see how it played out. I counted 12 near misses in 40 spins, which is an unusually high frequency. I'd seen this before in my years of observation. I knew what was coming based on historical patterns. On spin 47, the bonus finally triggered. The player hit over 150 free spins with stacked multipliers that kept re-triggering. The final payout was $2,800 on a $2 bet. The near misses weren't random noise. They were indicators that the machine was approaching the trigger threshold in its RNG cycle. Sign number 3. The machine just paid someone else a modest win. This is going to sound completely counterintuitive to everything you've probably believed about slot machines. Most players actively avoid machines that just paid someone else. They think, that machine just paid out. Now it's cold. Now it needs to collect money again before it pays out again. This logic seems reasonable on the surface, but it's completely backwards for certain types of machines based on how they're actually programmed. Here's what they don't tell you. A common misunderstanding is that if a slot pays a jackpot or lots of small wins, it'll then tighten up in order to hit the specified RTP. That is absolutely not how it works, as the reels always land on a random combination, regardless of what's hit before. The random number generator doesn't know or care what just happened. It doesn't have memory. It doesn't reset after a payout and enter some kind of collection mode. Many modern slot machines are designed with what we call cluster payout programming in the industry. When one bonus hits, the probability window for another bonus stays open briefly, sometimes for hundreds of spins. These aren't cold cycles where the machine shuts down. These are hot streaks, and they're programmed into the game intentionally by the manufacturers as part of the volatility design. Here's how it works. From a programming standpoint, volatile machines, meaning high-variance games, are designed to pay in bursts, rather than steadily over time. They don't distribute wins evenly across all playing sessions. They accumulate, then release in a cluster, then accumulate again, then release again. Medium-sized wins often precede larger wins during these burst cycles, because that's how the math model behind volatile slots is designed deliberately. Instead of distributing wins evenly across all playing sessions, which would create a boring, predictable experience, the game concentrates wins into shorter windows of time. This creates excitement, generates big win stories that players share, and creates the perception that the machine can pay big if you catch it at the right time. As a supervisor, I saw this pattern constantly, and I mean multiple times per week. A machine would pay a $200 to $500 bonus to a player. The player would cash out and leave happy with their win, feeling like they got lucky and made the smart decision to quit while ahead. And then, the next person would sit down, sometimes literally 30 seconds later, and hit even bigger within the next 100 spins, sometimes within the next 20 spins. We'd actually shake our heads watching this happen on surveillance, knowing what was occurring. The first player would walk away thinking they got lucky and should quit while ahead. They'd congratulate themselves on their discipline and smart play. But they left right in the middle of a hot cycle. They captured one burst from a cluster of bursts that were programmed to occur. They left money on the table without realizing it. This pattern was remarkably consistent on specific machine types that I tracked over the years. Buffalo Series games like Buffalo Gold and Buffalo Grand showed this pattern constantly. Lightning Link Series machines, Dragon Link machines, any game with stacked wilds or progressive bonus features, and games with volatile math models, all of these cluster wins together by design. So here's what you should do. When you observe this situation, if you see someone win a moderate amount, let's say $200 to $800, not a massive jackpot, but a solid win, and they cash out and leave looking happy, jump on that machine immediately. Don't hesitate. Don't overthink it. Play for at least 50 to 100 spins to see if the hot cycle continues, but set a stop loss before you start. If you don't see any action, any bonus triggers, any significant wins in that 50 to 100 spin window, cut your losses and move on. Don't chase it indefinitely hoping the pattern will eventually appear. Why do players miss this opportunity so consistently? Psychological bias. They see a machine payout and think it must be done for a while. There's a fear of losing what the previous player just won, like somehow their win diminishes your chances. But the random number generator doesn't know or care what just happened. If the machine is in a favorable cycle based on its programming, that cycle continues regardless of who's sitting in the chair. The RNG doesn't reset after a payout. It doesn't say, okay, I paid out $500, now I need to collect $500 before I pay out again. That's not how the programming works at all. The burst cycle has a duration measured in spins, not in payouts or dollar amounts. One payout doesn't end the burst. Multiple payouts within the burst window are expected and programmed as part of the volatility model. Let me give you a specific example from a Thursday night shift I'll never forget. A Lightning Link machine paid $650 to a player in a linked jackpot bonus. The player was absolutely thrilled, cashed out immediately, and left the casino with a huge smile. 30 seconds later, I timed it because I was watching. Another player sat down at that exact same machine. Within 30 spins, the linked bonus triggered again with a $1,200 payout. I saw this exact pattern at least twice a week during my time as supervisor. At least twice a week, and that's being conservative. It wasn't coincidence. It wasn't luck. It was programming and volatility design playing out exactly as intended by the manufacturers. Now, here's an important distinction you need to understand. This applies to modest wins, not massive jackpots. If a machine just paid a major jackpot of $5,000 or more, that machine likely is resetting and entering a cold cycle. There's a big difference between a $500 bonus and a $10,000 jackpot in terms of how the machine's cycle responds. Know which one you're chasing. Major jackpots often do trigger a reset in the cycle because the machine has satisfied its variance requirements with that one massive payout, and it typically enters an accumulation phase afterward. Sign number 4. Progressive meters at critical thresholds. Progressive jackpots are jackpots that grow with every bet placed across linked machines. Some are local progressives, linking just the machines in one casino. Others are wide area progressives, linking machines across multiple casinos or even multiple states like Megabucks. But the progressives I want you to focus on, the ones that are actually exploitable, are called must-hit-by progressives. A must-hit-by progressive has a specific cap that's displayed right on the machine. For example, a machine might say must hit by $500 right on the display. That means the progressive jackpot is guaranteed to trigger before it reaches $500. It's guaranteed by the programming. It cannot exceed that amount. It's a mathematical certainty. Here's the key insight that professional advantage players use to make money. Most must-hit-by progressives trigger between 80% and 95% of their cap. This isn't random. This is how they're programmed. If the cap is $500, it will almost certainly hit somewhere between $400 and $475. Very rarely does it hit at the extremes, either very low, like $50, or right at the cap, like $499. As a supervisor, we maintained detailed spreadsheets tracking progressive hit history across all machines. We recorded every single time a progressive triggered, at what amount it triggered, what time of day, and how long it had been since the last reset. Over time, over months and years of data collection, we could see clear patterns emerge for specific machines. Specific machines would consistently hit at 85% to 90% of cap like clockwork. Some machines were even more predictable, consistently hitting between 88% and 92% of cap. We tracked this data because it affected player behavior and floor traffic. Players would camp on machines near cap, but you can use this same information to your advantage. Here's why this is exploitable from a mathematical standpoint. Expected value shifts positive at certain thresholds. Let me explain what that means in practical terms. Let's say you're playing a slot machine with a must-hit by progressive set at $500. The progressive meter is currently showing $150. At this point, your expected value is negative. The progressive still has $350 to grow before it's guaranteed to hit. You'll likely spend more trying to hit that progressive than the progressive is actually worth at this stage. But if that same progressive is showing $490, just $10 away from the cap, your expected value shifts dramatically in your favor. You're very close to a guaranteed trigger. The math temporarily works in your favor. You only need to cover $10 of growth before the jackpot must hit, and that might only take $50 or $100 in wagers. The payout percentage is calculated when casino developers spin the virtual reels thousands of times and compare the money invested against the prizes won. This same principle applies to must-hit-by progressives, where the trigger point is predetermined within a specific range. Professional advantage players, people who actually make consistent money gambling, hunt for these situations specifically. They scout casino floors with notebooks and phones, specifically looking for must-hit-by progressives near their caps, and they camp on those machines until the progressive hits. They'll play for hours if necessary because the math is in their favor. Here's which progressives you should target. Must-hit-by jackpots that are at 95% or higher of their cap. Local progressives, where you can actually see the meter and track it yourself. Mystery progressives that are at historically high levels based on your observations or tracking. Avoid wide area mega progressives like megabucks or mega moolah. The odds of hitting those are astronomical, sometimes worse than lottery odds. You're much better off with local must-hit-by progressives where the trigger is guaranteed within a specific narrow range. Here's how to use this sign strategically when you're on the casino floor. Scout the entire casino floor methodically for progressive meters. Don't just walk the main aisles. Check every section. Take notes on your phone about which ones are near their caps. Calculate whether the expected value justifies your play based on the current meter level and how much you'd need to wager to have a reasonable chance of hitting it. If a $500 progressive is at $498, that's absolutely worth playing aggressively. You're risking maybe $20 to $50 in wagers to win $498. That's strongly positive expected value. If it's at $150, move on immediately. You'd likely spend $200 or more chasing a $500 jackpot, which is terrible expected value. Let me tell you about a time I used this knowledge myself after my shift ended. Our casino had a bank of 10 machines with a must-hit-by progressive set at $1,000. Over months of tracking data, I noticed it almost always hit between $920 and $980. Never lower than $900, never higher than $995. It was remarkably consistent. One evening after my shift ended and I'd clocked out, I was walking through the casino and noticed the progressive was at $965. The math said it was very close based on historical patterns. The data confirmed it was in the high probability zone. So I played that bank of machines for the next 90 minutes, moving between them. The progressive triggered at $977. I won $977 minus the approximately $120 I'd wagered to hit it. The math was right. The data was right. This wasn't luck. This was informed gambling based on observable patterns and mathematical probability. Sign number 5. Time of day and floor placement patterns. This is the most controversial sign, so let me be very clear and explicit about what I'm saying and what I'm not saying. Casinos claim they don't adjust machine payout percentages based on time of day. And this is technically true in most jurisdictions. Nevada requires slots to pay back at least 75%, and New Jersey 83%. So machines would pay back at least that much, and in most jurisdictions, casinos cannot change RTP settings remotely or on the fly. It requires physical access to the machine, gaming commission approval and documentation, and extensive paperwork. So no, casinos are not tightening your machines at night and loosening them in the morning with remote controls. That's not what I'm saying at all. But here's what they don't tell you. What casinos absolutely do adjust, and this is what I was directly involved in as a supervisor, is machine placement on the floor. And this is based entirely on performance data. Here's what actually happened during my time as supervisor. Every single morning, management would review overnight performance reports generated by the casino management system. We'd see which machines paid out too much and which machines held more than expected. Machines that were running hot, meaning paying out more than their programmed rate over the previous 24 to 48 hours, would get flagged in our system with red indicators. And then we'd move them. We'd physically relocate hot machines to less visible locations on the floor. Why would we do this? Because a hot machine in a prime location costs the casino significantly more money than the same hot machine in a low-traffic location. If a machine is already paying out more than expected and it's in a high-traffic area where lots of players will find it and play it, that multiplies the casino's losses exponentially. So we'd move hot machines to back corners, near restrooms, in low-traffic sections, away from main walkways. We weren't changing the settings. We weren't adjusting the RTP. We were managing placement strategically to minimize exposure and limit financial damage. And we do the exact opposite with cold machines. Machines that were holding more than expected, taking in more than they were paying out, would get moved to prime center floor locations with maximum visibility, maximum traffic, maximum profit potential. Here's what this means for you. If you see a popular game suddenly appear in a weird, out-of-the-way location that doesn't make sense from a marketing standpoint, there's a reason. It probably paid out too much somewhere else on the floor, and management moved it to reduce exposure and minimize further losses. Think about it like this. Casinos don't randomly place their most popular games in low-traffic areas. Buffalo Gold, Lightning Link, Dragon Link, these are marquee titles that should be front and center to attract players. If you see one of these games tucked away in a corner near the bathrooms or in some back section of the floor, that machine was likely moved there because it's been running hot. And here's the kicker. Just because they moved it doesn't mean the hot cycle is over. According to former slot technicians, machines can stay in favorable payout cycles for days or even weeks, depending on the volume of play and the specific variance model programmed into that game. Moving the machine to a low-traffic area slows down how quickly players cycle through it, but it doesn't reset the RNG or change where that machine is in its payout sequence. So when you're scouting the casino floor, don't just focus on the main aisles and center floor positions. Walk the entire floor methodically. Check the back sections. Look near the restrooms, near the exits, in the corners. If you find a popular high-variance game in a strange location, that's a sign it might be worth playing. Putting it all together. Now that you understand all 5 signs, let me show you how to use them in combination for maximum effectiveness. The most powerful approach is to look for multiple signs occurring simultaneously on the same machine. For example, if you find a Buffalo Gold machine in a back corner location that just paid someone a $400 win, and when you sit down you notice an increased frequency of near misses, you've got 3 signs pointing to the same machine. That's not a coincidence. That's a convergence of mathematical patterns all indicating the same thing. This machine is in a favorable position to pay. Here's what I want you to do. Drop a comment below with which sign you've noticed most often. Have you ever seen a machine move to a strange location? Have you noticed near-miss patterns? Have you jumped on a machine right after someone else won? I want to hear your experiences. And remember, and this is critical, play for entertainment, not income. These signs improve your odds and help you make smarter decisions, but they don't guarantee wins. No strategy can overcome the house edge in the long run. Gamble responsibly. Set limits before you play. Never chase losses. And never bet more than you can afford to lose. Until next time, play safe and I'll see you in the next one.